This is the back or the bottom two shoulders, two hip joints, I guess. This is a 2-axis hip joint, and this is a 2-axis hip joint for the bottom or the back of my robot. I'm really trying to keep motors out of this general area, and I'm trying to push them up, or I'm trying to push the motors down. And so I got to the point where I was going to need to put some motors on this, so I got to working on this, and I wanted to talk about my updates to it. So a motor on this can be positioned down here, and it will control this motion, like the up and down, sort of the back and forth. And what I need to do is I need to have a motor, and again, I want the motor down here to control this twisting motion, like that. So take a look at my updates I have. This is a sort of this cap I put on top, and it's got a set of bearings that there's 3 pairs of bearings on here. This and what it does is it is a cable drive, and these bearings direct the motion. I have a motor that is down here. It's going to go on this axis. It's going to go up here. It's going to hit this pair of bearings, and both the positive and the negative line go into this area here. You can kind of see that. They go in there. And if I look at this underneath, you can see that there's another pair of bearings down there that drive this up here, where they come out right here. See, I don't know if you can kind of see that. It's probably pretty dark. But anyway, positive and negative lines come up through the center of the tube. They come angled, they shoot down. If you look at it from the side, you can see, it's hard to do this and hold the camera at the same time, but you can see they come up from the center of the tube around this bearings. They go down here, and then they go down where another pair of bearings shoot them around the outside of this axis pivot, where they're anchored. Right now I kind of have a Mickey Mouse, but I have it anchored right there, and that nut is holding them, that U-bolt is holding them. So what happens is, if I turn this, watch what happens when I turn this. Look at that shaft. See how the shaft is turning as I move this back and forth? That I am going to try to move this axis with the cable drive that goes along that path. See if I can explain it better. It goes from here to here to here to here, then over the top here, and then around that axis. And right now I'm using Kevlar rope. This is 1/16 inch Kevlar rope. It has a 500-pound capacity on that. I'm going to try to throw some 1/8 inch test on there, which will have a 1,500 pounds. And then I'm going to have to preload this. I'm looking really going to get as much as I can, but I'm going to try to get between 15 and 20 foot-pounds off of this axis. And in order for that to work, I'm going to need, I think I figured out, I'm going to need to preload this to about between 200 and 250 pounds, depending on how big around this guy is up here. Right now, this is a 1.5 inch diameter. So that's a 3/4 inch radius. So if I think about this is going to be a 9-inch radius. This bone is a 9-inch bone. So if I want to think about that radius working against this radius, I think that, I'm going to probably take whatever foot-pounds I want on this thing. I'm going to amplify this, I think, quite a bit. It's going to be about 250 to 300 pounds of pressure on this cord, and so I'm going to have to preload that, and I'm hoping that this thing doesn't just pull apart when I do it. But this is all 1/8 inch aluminum. It's all pretty strong in there, and I'm looking forward to seeing that work. One of the reasons why I chose a cable drive over a traditional belt or a chain or even a set of gears is that the axis I'm driving is sort of an axis away. It's an axis separated from where I'm putting the motor. The transmission of this power needs to kind of traverse a pivot that moves, because this bone is going to be moving like this, and I want the power from the motor to still come up here and rotate as whether the bone is up like this or the bone is down like that. And so what I've got here is the dirty little secret with the cable drive is I have the cable drive running along the axis of the pivot. If I go like this, these pairs, they're twisting kind of near each other, but they're far enough away from each other. I don't think it's going to cause a problem. But I'm going to be able to move. Let's take a look at it from the side. I'm going to be able to move this, and the transmission of that power with that cable drive is going to be able to move with it, and it's not going to change the tension. It's not going to change the position of the axis, and it's not going to change the tension on the cable. Presumably, in a perfect world, there'll be a little bit because I'm building it by hand. But this is this as you pivot this, the distance that this thing travels stays the same. That portion of the cable drive doesn't move, and it allows you to transmit power over like sort of an axis away. That's kind of cool. That's one of the cool things about cable drives. And so that's kind of why I chose the cable drive over the belt or the chain or gear. So I was a little bit worried that it would be kind of not high enough quality to actually work, but I think I got it together pretty well. There's a little bit of a twisting motion in here, but it works. So this will actually, you can see that if I tilt this leg up and move it back and forth, the shaft is turning. And also if I tilt it down and move the axis back and forth, the axis turns just as well. So that's the cool thing about a cable drive is you can transmit power over an axis away, and I bet you I could even do it 2 axes away. I think there's plenty of people that do that with manufacturing arms and whatnot. So that's pretty cool. All right, I wanted to take a closer look at the base of this drive shaft here. It's one of the biggest things that's changed with the new update is I removed the round bottom of this and I put the square on there. Probably should have been square anyway, so I can do a better fix between this and this. But anyway, I had to do it because I'm passing, like I showed you earlier, I'm passing the drive cables down to the center of this, and if I look up inside there, we have some bearings passing, so changing the direction of my drive lines. And one of the things I ran into is I went to all the trouble to make this beautiful piece down here, and I was worried that if I put this hole in here to hold those bearings, that I would want to change it and I would have to make this piece all over again. So, and I didn't want to do that. So what I did is I took a good look in here and I realized from top to bottom I didn't have any problems with space. And so what I did, it's hard to do this while holding the camera, but I built a little box. I built that holds those bearings, and those just drop right in. I don't even have them bolted together or anything. This is a nice tight fit in there, and again, I can drop those bearings in there. Now, full disclosure, this is a proof of concept build, and this is the piece I could find. This is 1 1/4 by 1 1/4, got an 1/8 inch wall. That leaves me a 1 inch by 1 inch square hole in there. And the problem I was having is I want to get these bearings as big as I can, because there's going to be a lot of force on them, the bigger diameter. Right now these are 16 millimeter diameter, and they have a static load limit of 250 pounds. That's pretty good for what I'm trying to do, but I want to have some options as I'm going forward. I'm going to be putting a lot of pressure on these drive lines that go up through the center of this thing, and I don't want them scraping up against anything and fraying and making them easier to break. And right now, they're kind of like, it's such a tight fit in here that the bearings receive the line like really close to the edge of this opening right here. And so I think that they're touching the inside of the tubing right here, and I don't want that to happen. I prefer that they're as far from the tubing as possible, and I want the drive lines to be like right in the middle of this thing and then get passed out to the side. So what I need to do is I need to position these bearings. Right now their position is kind of like this. There's just barely enough room for them to come down around the outside and then shoot off to the side. And I want them to catch, I want them in closer to the edge like this. So they're picking up the bearing, they're picking up the drive line in the middle of this tube. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another one of these boxes, but I'm going to add about a 1/4 inch to 3/8 of an inch distance this way from, from left to right, so that I can position that bearing farther to the side. And I mean, I'm going to increase the total width of this, but this side of the box, which is amounts to being the inside, this is the center of the robot here. This is going to be the inside surface. This is actually going to stay positioned in the same point. And when I add a 3/8 of an inch to this box, I'm actually adding it to the outside surface, or from our point of view, the right hand side. It's just gonna, I'm gonna shift it over. I'm not gonna go 3/16 this way and then 3/16 this way. What I'm really gonna do is add 3/8 of an inch to the outside surface of this, or the outside dimension of this box, and then this inside surface that faces the inside of the robot is going to stay right there. It's not going to move at all. I'm adding that extra room to the outside of the to the outside surface, so that I can move my bearing this way. And then I like this line, so this line's going to stay there. Once I have that box, I'll be able to position these bearings so I have a cleaner line instead of being pressed up and far to the left. Instead of being so cramped in there, I'll be able to position them so they pick up the line from the center of this tube. And I think it'll give me a higher quality line. It'll be less likely to scrape up against the edges of this thing, and the line will last longer because it won't be scraping against walls. That's it.